I'm Frank Isola. I have a guess. Not Edmonton. He's not in Alberta. He didn't make
That's
it.
a safe guess. I asked him the other day if he'd ever been to Edmonton, and he said no. Now, Frank, I'm presuming you have been. I've been twice. Have you been to Edmonton?
Believe it or not, Vancouver, yes. Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, not Edmonton. I'd like to go.
Demerits for both of you. You and Tony. Welcome to PTI. Tony couldn't finish the job, so here in relief is our great friend, the closer, fill-in Frank Isola.
Those are people from Edmonton. They're upset with me.
Yeah, he sounds like they're cheering from Edmonton, too. Let's begin with tonight's huge Game 6 in Edmonton. The Panthers get a third chance to close out the Cup, but the Oilers have been a different team in their consecutive victories, with Connor McDavid putting up back-to-back 4-point masterpieces. Frank, do you like the Oilers' chances of winning for a third straight time tonight and forcing Game 7, or seeing Florida take the Cup?
You know what? I really like Edmonton's chances. Number one, it's their final home game of the season. That building is going to be electric. They haven't had an event like this there in about 18 years. And you mentioned the numbers. You know, Connor McDavid, 11 points in the Stanley Cup Finals, 8 in the last 2 games. And look at what they've done. They've really started to exploit Florida defensively. 13 goals. They've only given up 4. And I think that Bobrovsky has looked a little shaky. Remember now, he's given up 9 goals the last 2 games. So I think they found a little dent in Florida. The toughest team, all this stuff, maybe they're starting to wear down just a little bit.
Well, Frank, I'm glad you mentioned Bobrovsky, because that's going to transition me into looking at Florida and wondering. I mean, you see goaltenders be okay, average, a little bit better. They get in the playoffs and they make a run and they stay hot often, all the way through. Bobrovsky was so great at the beginning of this series, and now you have to wonder psychologically and emotionally where he is, where his team is. Florida, and it was interesting listening to all the analysts on various networks talk about this game approaching tonight. Everybody's referring to, and particularly former players, Florida's energy level. Can they summon that again? Can they find the level of energy they played with in games 1 and 2 particularly? And, you know, Edmonton started to close that gap and build a little momentum late in Game 3. But can they find that? Because without that, it's hard to see them putting up the kind of defensive front in front of Bobrovsky that they're going to need to slow McDavid. And by the way, remember, Draisaitl, it's not like McDavid's out there by himself, and Draisaitl hasn't had a great series yet, and he's capable of busting out, particularly at home. So, wow, this is one of those games. I can't wait for this Game 6. It feels like they're going to be 2 Game 7s if they force one.
Yeah. What I love is Edmonton did what we wanted the Dallas Mavericks to do. Go on the road, win a game, make it a series, and that's what they've done now. You mentioned Draisaitl. He's yet to score. And right now they're in a Game 6, so that's a positive sign, actually, for Edmonton, which is 4-0 in elimination games. And you've mentioned McDavid. How about the fact that he has 42 points during this playoff run? He has a chance, especially the way that he's going, have the most points ever in one single postseason. I mean, everyone has been talking about him being a star. Now he's been in your living room. He's going to be in there tonight, and you're seeing what a magnificent player this guy is, carrying Edmonton right now to a Game 6, potentially a Game 7.
Well, Frank, anytime you're up there on the marquee and right next to your name is the name Gretzky, that's like being alongside Wilt. You don't get that. Or Jordan. You just don't have that kind of impact. So, but still, is it going to be sustainable tonight, or is McDavid tired now? Is there so many subplots, all of them great?
I love the one stat about Edmonton. Thus far in the playoffs, in games 4, 5, 6, and 7, they're 9-2. They get better as the series goes on, and certainly that's happening right now. All right, let's move to the changing of the guards in the NBA. The Bulls are sending Alex Caruso to the Thunder in exchange for Josh Giddey. Mike, you watch Caruso in Chicago. What does he bring to the Thunder? And did the Bulls get back good value in Giddey?
Well, I'll start with the Bulls because that's kind of short. No, you got to get more. I like Giddey. He's 21 years old. He's 6'8". He's a creative and willing passer of the basketball. But his shooting, and by the way, he rebounds. I mean, he's rebounded like 7.5 a game 2 years ago. But his shooting is just gone in the dumper. This kid lost his confidence. They had to bench him during the playoffs, as you know, Frank. And Giddey had off-court issues. There's no telling what played into this, but he lost his confidence. The Bulls have to rebuild him, and maybe they can. He was the number 6 overall pick just 3 years ago. But they should have gotten the pick. OKC has like 20 first-round picks coming up. You got to get one of them in addition to Giddey. Now, you ask what defensively he brings. If you look at that Oklahoma City defense, they got Lou Dort, for my money, the best on-ball defender in the league among swings, guards, forward. Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, SGA, and Cason Wallace. Frank, they got a whole all-defensive team on their team, and now you add this guy who shoots 41% at least last year up to his three-point shooting. Great deal to get Caruso for OKC.
All right. 2 things you left out, though. Well, you did mention Josh Giddey's age. He's 21. So you're getting a 21-year-old back for a guy that's a 30-year-old role player. Terrific player, no question about it. But you're getting a guy that's going to turn 22 in October. He was a 6 overall pick. He's a talented guy. And let's be fully transparent here. You know, his career or this season really changed for him. Police in Newport, California were investigating an improper relationship with a minor. They decided not to pursue charges. Now, that had to have an impact on his season, as did the emergence of Jalen Williams. There's no question about it. But if I'm the Chicago Bulls, and let's be honest here, Mike, they're stuck in no man's land. You got to roll the dice every once in a while. So am I going to get the Josh Giddey that averaged 16 points last year or the guy that averaged 12 points? He's going to get a chance to play absolutely in Chicago. I think for him it's a new lease on life. I think it's a great trade for Chicago. And I know what you're saying about the draft
trade.
picks.
Wow.
But again, hang on. You're trading a 30-year-old role player for a guy the last 2 years. He's 21 years old, 76 games and 80 games. The guy's been durable. Now, the shooting, there's a great stat out there. When defenders are within 6 feet of him, he shot 19% on threes last year. I get it. But you know what? I think last year for this guy's an aberration. He's a terrific passer. He has 11 career triple-doubles by the time he's 21. Only your guy Magic Johnson did that. Luka Doncic, Ben Simmons. 4 guys in the history of the sport. They got a talented player. If I'm the Bulls, it was worth rolling the dice on a player like that.
Frank, I love getting him. And I love having him in the backcourt with Kobe White. If they can get rid of Zach LaVine, that makes it all the better. I'm just saying, Oklahoma City has first-round draft picks. You know, I mean, come on. They got more first-round draft picks than anybody. They're stocked with them. I'd like to have pried one away from them in addition to Giddey.
That's fair.
And you can get better shooting. Lonzo Ball did. And they got to be looking at Giddey and thinking a little bit about Ball's improvement once he got into a less pressurized situation. I agree with you on all that. I'm just, you know, getting a little greedy. I want.
It helped Oklahoma City. Good move for them. Good move for them.
And now to one of the most dramatic swimming events, not just a race, you'll ever see. Erica Connolly and Katie DeLuth, great friends and training partners, were tied for the 1 spot remaining on the 400 free relay team after Wednesday's trials. Team USA could only take one of the 2 to Paris for the Olympics. So yesterday, these 2 great friends had a 100-meter swim-off, with DeLuth leading at the turn, but Connolly closing at the finish to win by, get this, 4/100ths of a second. Frank, what the hell is the word you would use to describe this?
You want to use compelling, dramatic? How about bittersweet? You know, they've never had a swim-off in U.S. swimming for a spot on the Olympic team. And to see just 2 swimmers out there in that gigantic football stadium going at it, and how about, you know, you have the one swimmer coming back and winning, just touching right at the finish line. I thought it was incredible. But, Mike, you know this from covering the Olympics, and I've been there too. These stories happen all the time because for certain sports, you're competing against time. And you spend your entire life training for your moment. And your moment comes on a day like yesterday or last night, and that's how much you lose by. And that's what makes the Olympics special. Yes, there are big stars, but everyone in the Olympic Games has a story. I've covered events where somebody from Morocco finishes 3rd in an event. They get the bronze medal. Everyone is breaking down and crying because they've poured their entire life into it. Now, the good news here is that both swimmers were at the Tokyo Olympics 4 years ago. So it wasn't her only chance, DeLuth's only chance to get there. And she still has a chance because she's in the 50 meters as well. I know she's seeded 7th, but she still has a chance to make the team.
Frank, People ask me all the time, I'm sure they ask you when you've done this as long as we have, been sports writers not covering one sport as everybody in the industry does today. But when you go to the Olympics and you go to see everything, and people have said to me, oh, what's the most exciting thing you've ever seen, the most dramatic thing you've ever seen, the most emotional thing you've ever seen? And they think I'm going to give them, Tom Brady going down the field or Michael Jordan hit a shot. No. The first 10 places are occupied by Olympic-related events and results. And the phrase, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, the human drama of athletic competition, it is meant to describe these kinds of events where people are weeping. Frank, the only time I, on Deadline, have ever seen tears on my own keyboard had nothing to do with the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball or the Final Four. It had to do with Kathy Freeman winning the 400 in Sydney, or a father coming out of the stands to put his arm around his son when he collapsed with a torn knee. There's nothing like these things. In this event, I'm glad I wasn't there in a way. It can be heartwarming later. But Frank, don't tell me you just give away spots on Olympic teams to Caitlin Clark because she got more likes on social media. Don't tell me that when these two young women went through what they went through yesterday, and there's nations full of stories like this. Oh, let's just give one away, Tony would say. It's a television show. The hell it is. These are people's hopes and dreams for a lifetime, and I'd like to hug them both. I've seen it. I'm with you totally.
I agree with you, but Tony's also right, because we'd be giving the basketball spot to the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history. But to your point about Olympic events, and I saw your guy Michael Jordan playing all those playoff games, his last 3 titles, I still say the most exciting and thrilling event I've ever went to was in London watching Usain Bolt win the 100 meters and being right there at the finish line. It was absolutely incredible. The Olympics are just different.
Right with you.
It's just different.
We got to take a break. Frank and I can talk Olympic stories all day long. Coming up, can the Panthers count on Sergei Bobrovsky tonight? We're going to ask PK Subban what he saw from Bob in Game 5.
We'll also ask him to describe the degree of difficulty of Connor McDavid's amazing assist. Look at that. Amazing.
Usain Bolt, baby. I was there, too. Nothing like
awesome.
it. Nothing like it. Let's get back into tonight's Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Panthers and Oilers in Edmonton. Joining us via FaceTime is our dear friend, ESPN hockey analyst, PK Subban. We're going to jump right into this, PK. You were fairly confident that Sergei Bobrovsky was going to return to form in Game 5, but he struggled again at times. What are you seeing from him?
Any goaltender that would have been in the net for Game 5 would have struggled. Sergei Bobrovsky was put in the McBlender along with his teammates. Connor McDavid was all-world again. Back-to-back 4-point nights. I mean, he had everybody guessing. Nobody knew what was coming next with Connor McDavid. Nobody could have predicted the game that the Edmonton Oilers played, and they deserved to have an opportunity in Game 6.
Tell you what, PK, you got a Game 7 outfit on for Game 6. Very, very impressive. You were a star at this level. Just tell us about the degree of difficulty, that one assist that Connor McDavid had, the slalom through a couple of defenders and set up a goal.
I mean, 2-minute and 20-second shift before he had this assist. And I gotta be honest, guys, I'm running out of scripts for this guy. He's the executive producer, the director, the editor. He's the talent. This is a script. It's his movie. We're all extras. Every single night, this guy's putting on a show. It's must-watch TV, but I said it on the air. For all the kids that are watching, that goal is indicative of a lot of hard training in the offseason. To be able to do that at this level, on this stage in the National Hockey League, against that team, the Florida Panthers, truly amazing. One of the best goals that you'll ever see in a Stanley Cup final.
All right, let's talk about a goal that didn't happen. What are you feeling when you're watching Matthew Tkachuk lay out the way that he did and prevent the puck from going in an empty net?
To me, that was a message to his team. There's no freebies. This is a Stanley Cup final. We play right to the end of the buzzer. And it's also a message to guys that, hey, guys, we got to elevate our desperation level. I don't care what the score is. We have to dictate play. And the Florida Panthers are a difficult team to play against when they dictate, when they act and don't react. So they got to get back to their game. They'll find it today. I think this is going to be the best game. I picked Florida to win in 6. I thought there was a sweep coming, and then Edmonton came out of nowhere. You sprinkle in a little bit of McJesus, and now we're here. It's game 6.
PK, we'll let you go after one more question. You mentioned that 3-0 lead. You referred to it. We all thought Florida was going to put this thing away when they're up 3-0, but forget about what we all thought. What do you think about 6 tonight, and are we going to see a 7?
Well, it's likely that this thing ends tonight. I mean, there's some pressure on Edmonton now to claw your way back into this series. You don't want to lose on home ice in front of all of your fans. So there's definitely some pressure on Edmonton tonight. They're going to share that with Florida. But for me, this has to be Florida's game. You cannot, I don't care if you got home ice and you're back in home ice. You do not want to go back to Florida. Why? One game to win the Stanley Cup, I'm taking Connor McDavid. I'm taking Connor McDavid in one game. Florida's got to end it tonight. If they don't, I think the Stanley Cup will be coming back to Edmonton, no matter what.
Drama, drama, drama coming up shortly. PK, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, PK.
As always, guys. Thanks, Wilbon. Thanks, guys.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, Lionel Messi, speaking of greats, overcomes a bumpy start to Copa America.
And Shohei faces his first time tonight. I like that.
We're talking
needs
greats,
to win tonight.
aren't we? McDavid, Messi, Shohei. Time to get happy, people. Happy 68th birthday, Rick Sutcliffe. 40 years ago this month, 40, Cleveland traded you to the Cubbies, and you went on to earn the NL Cy Young and an everlasting place in my heart. That season, Sut went 16-1 with a 2.69 ERA for the Cubbies, leading them to the postseason for the first time in nearly 40 years, Frank. It was thrilling. We don't need to get into what happened in the NLCS. In all, Sut pitched for 5 teams over 18 seasons, winning 171 games. And when he was on the mound, I always wanted to watch and usually did. That's when starting pitchers could be craftsmen of the game, not just spin-rated flamethrowers who shuffle back and forth between the rotation and the operating room.
Terrific pitcher. You know what? Living here during that time, you know what I remember? Rick Sutcliffe on the cover of Sports Illustrated with Doc Gooden. Remember that late September cover photo?
Yes.
Who you got? Who's going to win the Cy Young? Doc the next year was lights out. 84 it was Sutcliffe. Right. 85 was Doc Gooden.
Some back-to-back, wasn't it? Happy anniversary to the Mavericks and the Hawks. On this day 6 years ago, the Hawks drafted Luka Doncic 3rd, and the Mavs drafted Trae Young 5th, and then the two teams swapped. Both players have made All-Star teams and All-NBA teams, but Doncic was most recently seen in the NBA Finals, whereas Young was most recently seen at the crib, having been to one conference final. What a haul for Dallas in that 2018 draft, Frank. In addition to trading for Doncic, they drafted Jalen Brunson with the 3rd pick of the 2nd round.
I never understand it, Mike. Trading big for small. I don't know what Atlanta was thinking. Trae Young is a terrific player, but Luka Doncic is a generational talent.
Great.
That never made any sense. He was all hype playing for Real Madrid, and he hasn't disappointed. Wasn't great in the finals, but he got to a finals.
Makes less sense now. Happy trails to Canada in last night's Copa America opener. Messi was in the spotlight in Argentina's 2-0 win. He had several great chances, and while he didn't actually score, he did set up the game-sealing goal with a wonderful pass into the box after the game. Argentina goalkeeper was among those ripping the playing surface at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, calling the new natural grass a disaster, very bumpy. Copa continues this weekend with Team USA making its debut against Bolivia, who they haven't lost to in about 30 years, Sunday in Jerry World.
All right, the field last night was terrible. Messi had 2 chances, which he's going to convert 9 times out of 10, or maybe 8 out of 10 since it was 2 times. And by the way, Canada, not a bad team, and they have a lot of former American college soccer players on the team. So let's hear it for American college soccer. Not bad.
Let's get to the big finish. The Orioles took 2 of 3 from the Yanks now just a half game behind them in the AL East. Is that a big deal yet?
They put up 17 on them. In fact, they won 2 games, and the 2 best pitchers, including Corbin Burns, didn't even pitch. Dodgers pitcher Clayton Kershaw threw 3 innings in his first rehab start. Is that significant?
Yes, if they can get Kershaw and Walker Buehler back, which is what they're banking on, they're going to be tough. All we do is talk about pitchers in operating rooms. Free agent guard Malik Monk has reportedly agreed to a 4-year, $78 million deal to return to the Kings. Is that an important piece?
He was the runner-up for the 6th man of the year. Remember, he got hurt late in the season.
He did.
That hurt Sacramento. He's a terrific player. Somehow he's still underrated. I don't get it. The Padres have won their last 3 home games on walk-off home runs. You impressed?
Yes, I love it, particularly the one that beat the Brewers 7-6 most recently. Last one, Shohei faces the Angels tonight for the first time as a Dodger. You intrigued?
Yeah, I'm intrigued, and if I'm Anaheim, I'm not happy. By the way, look at the numbers he's putting up. 21 home runs, 53 RBIs. Amazing. We're out of time. Thanks for watching. I'm Frank Isola.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, knuckleheads. And now, your sports.
PTI. Storyline, of course, we will follow heading into training camp in July. Jeremy, thank you so much. Thank you.
To be up there one day.
The Boston Celtics are the NBA World Champions.
It's that extra motivation.
Banner number 17, soon to be raised to the rafters.
Been so close these last 2 years.
But it will end in disappointment. They'll fall short of their goal.
All of those experiences led to here.
Brown fires up the three.
The whole world is watching, so now's the time to show it.
Jaylen Brown with the flush. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions.
And the party continues for the Celtics as they celebrated that 18th NBA title with their championship parade through the streets of Boston today. You see Porzingis, we saw Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum all smiles. The Celtics rolled past the Mavericks in 5 games earlier this week. Oklahoma in college football has given head coach Brent Venables a new 6-year contract. The deal has a total value over $51 million and ties Venables to the Sooners through the 2029 season. UFC star Conor McGregor says a broken toe is what forced him to withdraw from UFC 303 next week in Vegas. McGregor last fought nearly 3 years ago when he suffered a broken leg in a loss to Dustin Poirier. 2-time WNBA MVP Asia Wilson of the Aces and Fever rookie sensation Caitlin Clark 1-2 in the early fan voting for next month's All-Star game. Wilson leads Clark by just over 1,300 votes. Sky rookie Angel Reese 7th in the early voting. And Clark and that Fever team, they hit the road to take on Reese and the Sky on Sunday. ESPN, according to Vivid Seats, it's trending to be the hottest WNBA ticket on record since 2015, with an average ticket price of $351, more in demand than any Chicago Bulls home game from this past season. More live coverage
about Donovan Clingan.
Donovan Clingan, probably 7 to Portland is going to be his floor ultimately. A lot of variation there on draft night.
Yeah, this is an intriguing draft. It's not super sexy. It's not headlined by one superstar, but you could find some all-stars down the road in this draft. According to ESPN Bet, Clingan has the 2nd shortest odds to go number 1 overall. Castle has the 4th shortest odds. 2 of the best guard prospects in this draft come from the same backcourt. Surprise, it's Kentucky. Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham. ESPN's latest mock draft has Shepherd going 3rd overall to the Rockets. Dillingham taken at number 8 by the Spurs. And this could be the 2nd straight year a Frenchman goes 1st overall. And that is 19-year-old phenoms Zachary Risacher and Alex Sarr expected to occupy the top 2 spots. Risacher being the betting favorite for number 1. Here's a look at the rest of the top 10 from the latest mock draft here from Gavoni. SEC Player of the Year Dalton Knecht going 6th to the Hornets. Keep an eye on Serbia's Nikola Topic. Remains in the top 10 despite recently being diagnosed with a partially torn ACL. Jonathan, listen, when you buy a ticket to scout people, it's not just in the United States. You've been all over Europe watching guys like Risacher and Sarr. When you watch those 2 guys, is their position potentially 1 and 2? Give us the scouting reports on both these guys.
Sure thing. Zachary Risacher, 6'10", 3-and-D guy who drawing comps to guys like Brandon Miller and Trey Murphy. Outstanding shooter, made 39% of his threes this year. Highly versatile defender. His team was the #1 defensive team in both the Euro Cup and the French League, and he was the key to that. They put him on point guards, they put him on forwards, they put him on wings. He can do a little bit of everything. Outstanding feel for the game. The sky is the limit for Zachary Rizachet. Now, Alex Sarr, 7'1", 7